Thank you. My name is Dr. Gary Krupnick in the Botany Department, and I've been head of this plant conservation unit since 1999. What I would like to do this morning is to put the work that I do and the scientific work of the Botany Department staff into the framework of the global strategy for plant conservation and show how we are contributing to the targets. Now, in 2002, the global strategy for plant conservation was adopted at the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. The most innovative element of the global strategy is the inclusion of 16 outcome-oriented targets aimed at achieving a series of measurable goals by the year 2010. Well, 2010 came and went, and we barely achieved any of those targets. However, the strategy was successful in bringing together international collaboration and organizing action from a variety of sectors. Recently, the strategy was revised by strengthening the language and making the goals even more ambitious. I don't have time to go through each of these 16 targets, but I'm going to briefly talk about 4 of these. The first target is an online flora of all known plants. The Botany Department contributes to this target by collecting and describing plants from around the world. These publications of the names take the form of checklists and floras, both in print and online. Each of these scientific names from these floras and checklists can be found on the plantlist.org. The original goal of Target 1 was a working list of all plant species, and this webpage went live in 2010, actually achieving this goal. This list has over 1 million plant names and just under 300,000 accepted names and another 300,000 names that still need to be resolved. The new target calls for an online flora. The Botany Department, along with the Encyclopedia of Life here in the museum, are among a team of institutions, organizations, and botanic gardens that will make this flora a reality by 2020. The second target hasn't had much success at Target 1. Target 2 calls for the conservation assessment of all known plant species. As of 2010, or as of 2012, less than 5% of all plant species worldwide have been assessed, far away from 100%. Compare that to 100% of all mammals, 100% of all birds, 94% of all amphibians that have been assessed. So, how are we going to speed this along? Well, here at the museum, we've initiated a preliminary conservation assessment tool that uses data from herbarium specimens. The goal of this tool is to narrow down the list of 400,000 or so plant species to a manageable list that will have a more focused assessment. Each species is placed into one of 2 categories, at risk and not at risk. The not at risk species include many widespread species where there is clearly no threat. The at risk species will then be evaluated using IUCN Red List criteria at workshops of experts. We've developed this ranked hierarchical approach using specimen data, which includes the number of recorded specimens from each species, which is a measure of abundance, the breadth of localities of each collection, which is a spatial assessment, and the date of collection, which is a temporal assessment. I've applied this model to the flora of Hawaii and to several plant families at the global level, such as cacti, orchids, and palms. Most recently, I had the opportunity to apply this to the flora of Puerto Rico. 82% of these plant species in Puerto Rico were assessed as not at risk. They do not need any further evaluation. The remaining 18% were at risk and were evaluated last year at a workshop in Puerto Rico. Of those species, 60% of these at-risk species were assessed as threatened using strict IUCN Red List criteria. We're planning next to expand the study to the entire flora of the Caribbean region. Target 8, I'm going to jump down to. Target 8 calls for 75% of threatened species to be found in ex situ collections, that is, collections outside of nature. The Botany Research Greenhouse in the Museum Support Center in Suitland, Maryland, has such a collection. I recently loaded this collection into the Botanic Gardens Conservation International Plant Search website, which shows that of the 788 plant species in our collection, 1/4 of these species grow in our collection and our collection only. They're not found in any other botanic garden or arboretum. So it's a very important collection that we have at Natural History here. 14 species were found to be listed as threatened in the IUCN Red List. This number is surely going to climb as more species are assessed and as more undescribed taxa in our collection are described and identified. One example of a threatened species is this one here, Brighamia insignis from Hawaii. In the wild, in the past 20 years, this species has gone from 5 populations of about 60 individuals found on 2 different islands down to one last remaining species in the wild. And it's critically endangered mainly because it's most likely that the pollinator has gone extinct on that island. These plants in ex situ collections then in our collection serve as a safeguard so these plants do not go extinct permanently. And finally, I have time to quickly talk about Target 14, which calls for an increase in education about plant biodiversity and conservation between having exhibits here in the museum, symposia here in the museum, and the opening of the new education center next year. I believe NMNH is contributing quite well to this target. So that's all I have time for today. I hope I showed how the work that we do here in the botany department is contributing quite well to the global strategy for plant conservation. Thank you for your time. I'd be happy to take a question. Yes?
I'm interested in knowing the process of institutional collaboration that makes these kinds of projects possible.
So you're interested in the kinds of international institutional collaboration that makes this possible. Well, for instance, the workshop that we had in Puerto Rico looking at the threatened species of that island included members from natural history here, included members of the New York Botanical Garden, and several herbaria down in Puerto Rico. And we couldn't have accomplished what we've accomplished without all of us coming together, looking at the data that we have, and running through, using the IUCN criteria to achieve those results. We're hoping now to expand this to the rest of the Caribbean, which means finding more partners in Cuba and Jamaica and Dominica and Dominican Republic and elsewhere. So thank you so much.